Hello, SOCI 302. I'm going to begin now to review the introduction section of the textbook. So the introduction section has a lot of testable terms, and it actually sets up your understanding as we move through the chapters very quickly. You can see that each of these chapters are prefaced by the term controversy. So we'll be discussing many controversies related to each one of these topics that the chapters do discuss and that they're focused on. So we can see from the introduction, the table of contents, that the short table of contents in particular, that we will be looking at for this course, we'll be looking at, does aging have meaning? So number one, the first controversy is, does aging even apply anymore? Do people still see age? Controversy 2, which we'll be getting into this week, why do bodies grow old? Controversy 3, do intelligence and creativity decline with age? And controversy 4, should we ration health care for older people? In other words, a cost-benefit analysis, which is what actually the Affordable Care Act was based on, was cost efficiency. I mean, why do we sink in for grandpa who has cancer? Why are he's 84, why are we giving him these $200,000 a month cancer treatments when it's not going to do any good? Just give him hospice care, send him home. The investment is not worth the benefit at the end. All right. So maybe you know parents or grandparents who have had managed care, health care, and this is the bottom line. Should we ration health care for older people? Shouldn't we give it to the younger population, spend more of our money on the younger population where they'll be working in society, giving back to society? Chapter 5, Controversy 5, should families provide for their own? Why do we have nursing homes? Aren't there enough people in families to take care of grandma, grandpa, old auntie? Number 6, should older people be protected from bad choices? So grandma's got all of that retirement money from grandpa, but she likes to cruise and gamble. She's gambling away all the money, which happens quite a lot. My mother used to have a license plate that said, I'm spending my kids' inheritance, too bad. So it is their money, but bad choices. One is also intimate partner relationships. So we see some people hook up with very high risk partners. And do we have a right to intervene in someone's life? Controversy 7, should people have the choice to end their lives? So here's another euthanasia issues. So lots of good controversies. But let's get into the introduction, which begins actually on page 1. And this is a life course perspective on aging. That means we look at the aging process through the whole course of a lifespan. And so this, of course, is found on page 2. And so it is, we cannot fully understand, second sentence in the first paragraph on page 2, highlighted, testable. We cannot fully understand what old age means unless we understand it as a part of the entire human life. And thus this is approach called life course perspective. So can your end of life days have meaning if you had very little activity in the beginning? The majority of college students are adults, and they're not traditional age students right out of high school. The majority of college students are between the ages of 25 and 35, very non-traditional, 45 and 65. Retirees from the military are typically in their 40s and 50s, and they're looking for a new career change. In some inner city neighborhoods, it's not at all unusual to meet a 35-year-old grandmother whose daughter is a pregnant teenager. And so that life course started early for some people. Now they have children who are having children. And it is no longer a surprise for men in second marriages to become fathers for the first time at ages 40, 50, 60. And with the advent of um, our wonderful in vitro fertilization, freezing of eggs, freezing of sperms, you can extend your bearing into much later years, especially if you have a surrogate um, contract with someone and you're in your 40s, but you want to have a child and you find a surrogate if you can afford it, because this is very much related to what you can afford, right? It's very much income based, what you can afford. So on page 4, we're going to have 4 testable terms, and every highlighted term on page 4 is testable. From early childhood, we're socialized to think about what it means to act your age. Okay, act your age, not just shoe size, right? A process which is called age differentiation. And so Erickson's eight life stage model, there are 8 different sections, identifies children as learning, they're modeling, they're watching, they're till age 6, 7, and 8. They're able to comprehend vast sets of rules. This is the rules for football. This is the rules to play Pokemon. These are different rules. They can differentiate rules. They can differentiate grandma's behavior rules, mom and dad's behavior rules, auntie's behavior rules, okay? Age differentiation. Age grading refers to the way people are assigned different roles in society depending on their age. And I just said it. This is grandma, this is mother, this is sister. Age grading. Age stratification emphasizes that a person's position in the age structure affects behavior and attitude. So because you're a teenager or because you're a 20-year-old, do you let your hair down? Do you drink harder? Because you're in your 30s and you're very much trying to build a career, do you not post those things on Facebook? Do you not let anything fly off the handle? Do you, as a grandmother, say, nah, I shouldn't say those things. I shouldn't act that way in front of the kids, Age stratification. Our social clock, or the biological clock, right? Concerning the appropriate age for certain life events. So when I came back to college at 45, everyone in my family was floored. Many people said to me, why? Because I want a career change. I chose to come back. I never thought that I would become a professor, but here I am so many years down the road with a PhD. And so my husband said to me, do you know how old you'll be when you graduate? I said, well, I'm going to be 50 no matter what. May as well have a degree and a life change, right? And a career change. And here I am. So when I sought my degree 10 years later, the same spiel was given to me. Do you know how old you'll be when you graduate with that PhD? Yeah, but here I am now. And that PhD is going to give me a lot more open doors. You see, I'm a boomer. Remember that last question? I'm not stopping working. I like the money. I like to play hard. I like to have nice things. I like to eat out at restaurants whenever I want to. I like to take grandchildren here, there, and everywhere. Just let me know what I need to do to keep the job, right? And I will keep this job for a long time, as long as it makes sense, at least halfway. So page 7, this is what I went over in the last one. Now, because of the advance of medicine, we are able to prolong life. Males, in particular, because of the hard labor 100 years ago, they were very fortunate if they saw 55, 60. Very fortunate. That was considered old age. For women, it was 45, 50. And some women, we didn't have the cosmetics. We didn't have all the good, what do we call all the good face creams, all the good hyaluronic acids. You looked old at 45 and 50. Okay, so now you need to know that there are age differentiations for the word old. Young old is ages 65 to 74. Old is ages 75 to 84. The oldest old is 85 and older. So longitudinal research at the bottom of page 7, that testable term, longitudinal research follows individuals over long periods of time. They may have a list of people, and that's called a cohort. And they check in with them every 6 months or once a year, and they track them. And it can be psychological research, it can be medical research, it can be social research, it can be related to nutrition, it can be related to life happenings and facts. So it's called longitudinal research. And the older we get, the more research they'll have. So life transitions occurs. So think about going to kindergarten. That's a life transition, leaving mom and dad, going to kindergarten. Then going into sports or hobbies. Then when you are a tween and a teen, transitioning from middle school to high school is a life transition. Graduating high school, first prom date, right? Driving, getting your driver's license. So rites of passage. And these are just civil related to American lifestyles. If you're a specific cultural group, if you're of the Jewish faith, there's the bar mitzvah or the bar mitzvah for females. There is also the circumcision ceremony at 8 days for the males in the Jewish faith. If you are of the Spanish culture, there's quinceanera for the girls at 15. There is the day you enter college. Today is the first day one of my grandchildren enter college. And so at LSU, we're so excited, we're so happy. This is a rite of passage, living in a dorm, taking care of yourself. And so special events, the first sentence on the third paragraph, page 8. Special events that mark the transition from one role to another. Marriage, divorce, becoming single through the loss of a spouse, the grieving process. These are rites of passage. Retirement, your first child. So, such as a bar mitzvah, confirmation in the Catholic faith, graduation ceremonies or weddings are as known as rites of passage. So when we look at the life course event model, there are many different theories in sociology and social work that we apply. So the first theory that you need to understand is called modernization theory, starts on page 9. According to modernization theory, the status of older adults declines as societies become more modern. And that's because in the agricultural society, usually those people who were older had more wealth, they owned the house, or they had positions that they had worked themselves into. And being under their supervision, receiving their wisdom, because 100 years ago, most people in the working classes and poor were not educated. Education was for upper middle class males, white, by the way, across European society as well as in America. Many males also chose to go into some type of skill-based occupation where they would be an apprentice. And so they would learn the family trade. And so those who are older were the ones who carried the skill sets. Now, what carries the knowledge of skill sets? Google it. You don't need to call grandpa to know how to fix it. Google it, right? It'll tell you, it'll show you, it'll walk you through it. This has displaced the value of aged life experiential knowledge. And AI is going to take it to a whole nother level. AI is going to take it to a whole nother level. So we see that prior to 100 years ago, the aged were sought for wisdom and counsel. So when we look at uh, the disengagement theory of aging, which is on page 11, okay, disengagement theory states that um, as at old age as a time when the older person in society engage in mutual separation, as in the case of retirement from work. And it's a natural tendency reflecting on a biological rhythm of life. And so as people age and they get to the retirement age, they disengage from the workforce, which puts them in a lot of interaction with people in society. And so they go home and they are more sedentary. They don't have to get up in the morning and punch a clock. They don't have to get their lunch. They don't have to come home. Life changes for them. They can cut the grass at 10 in the morning if they want to, like my husband's doing today, getting the grass cut at 10 in the morning. He's retired. And so disengagement. So they also, because of lack of mobility or cognitive, they'll disengage from social functions. They'll disengage from hobbies or activities that they once enjoyed, because with retirement also will bring a lessened economic base. And so their finances might be more limited. So they're not going to go on that vacation. They're not going to go on that cruise unless you're like grandma and you inherited it all, right? So activity theory of aging, found on page 13, argues that the more active people are, the more likely they are to be satisfied with life. And we understand that. Do what you enjoy doing. The more active you are, the more you get out, the more you're going to have life satisfaction. It assumes that how we think of ourselves is based on the roles or activities in which we engage. The continuity theory of aging makes a similar point, builds on that, noting that as people grow older, they are inclined to maintain as much as they can of the same habits, personality, and style of life they developed in earlier years. And so your personality continues. So it's continuity theory. Unless a major stroke happens or you have a debilitating brain injury, sometimes people's personalities will change due to a brain injury, or sometimes lack of physical mobility will cause people to be very discouraged, and they'll become angry, like, why did I have to fall and break this hip? I'm stuck now for 6 months. And they get angry. And so the characters will change. When we look at the phenomenological approach, at bottom of page 13, it's the interpretation of aging for foregrounding and appreciating individuals' lived experiences as legitimate sources of knowledge. So the phenomenon, the thing that they have experienced. Grandpa was in Vietnam. His dad was in World War II. That grandpa was in World War I. Did you experience the Depression? Understanding their knowledge. In New York, there is an AI generated computer system that has taken all of the videos and movie reels of the Holocaust victims from the 40s all the way forward. And they have taken specific pictures of people. And you can go up to the Holocaust Museum and you can be, there is a animatronic individual, or there are 3D people that are sitting like a hologram, and you can press a button and talk to each one of them, and it pulls in this vast experience, phenomenological experiences of thousands of people, and it generates that into a summarized experience that you can interact with this AI individual. And so AI taking us into a whole nother world. It's kind of like being on the Star Trek holodeck. Okay. And what do we take away from it? We take away group experiences that are condensed into one synthetic presentation. And so we don't have this one person's lived experience where we can go ask them. One of your assignments is going to be to identify the older people in your family and go talk to them about what they've lived. All right. So I asked you in the last lecture to just think about going to look at birthday cards. Go stand at the birthday cards and look at the funny point of view. So on page 14 at the bottom, it says that aging assumes to be a continuous deterioration and decline. Think about birthday cards. Aging is a disaster. Everything's downhill, very pessimistic. And so this can cause a thought that leads to discrimination about ageism. So testable term, prior to biological fact, and is the basis for the widely shared prejudice against ageism. Don't hire that old person. They're just going to be telling you what to do all day long. You can't give that 80-year-old a loan. They ain't got too much time left. How are they going to pay that loan back? Ageism, right? Ageism. Don't give a loan to anybody after 65. So when we look at the next testable term, we see the term heterogeneity. So Americans don't like to talk much about social class, but it is impossible to understand the heterogeneity of later life experience without recognizing the importance of class and inequality. So increasing inequality among older people, especially those generations now approaching old age, the boomers. The boomers are truly the last generation that experienced overt, in your face racism. You're Black, don't apply for this job. So vast sections of minority people were not allowed to have jobs that would generate a retirement income. They didn't get a job that they could go buy a house. Very few people of minority in the boomer generation own their houses. Okay. It's you'll see it. The younger boomers, the 65 to 55, and that's it. These people that are 55 now and up is the boomer generation marching through time. Okay. We see greater financial gaps for the poor adults in the years to come. And so when we see that there wasn't a lot of generational wealth that was passed down. So heterogeneity, not everybody is the same. There are some differences. Homogeneity means everybody's the same. Hetero means there's differences, there's gaps. So when you have had lesser income, when you've had to struggle all your life, there's a concept that is on the bottom of page 16 that a pattern of learned helplessness can occur. And this is dependency and depression reinforced by external environment. And so there is a grant program to help people pay for their oh, what do you call it? To help pay for their utilities. And you tell grandma, you need to apply for this. No, they'll not give it to me. Grandma, I'm telling you, they'll give it to you. No, there's no reason to apply for that. I'm not going to get that. Past experiences leading to discouragement, learned helplessness. In the past, that minority grandma might not have gotten that. Or perhaps the white grandma who's very poor didn't have the skill sets, a good education, knew how to apply for an application. Now you have to go online. Everything's online. How do these old grandmas who were janitors, who were cooks, who were housekeepers, sitters, babysitters, these who did menial labor, who never had the opportunity to have a computer, learn how to use it, how are they going to negotiate? I had this issue with FEMA. I had this issue with the SNAP benefits for Louisiana when we had the last Ida hit. Everything was online. Unless you had to go, they would come once a month to the Civic Center and you'd sit there with 800 to 1,000 people trying to go through file with your little file. So everything was digital, everything was computerized. So this can lead to learned helplessness. When people are taken from their homes or their apartments, are living with family, and they're placed inside of a structured nursing home environment where you eat at 7, you eat at 12, you eat at 5, somebody cooks your food. If you want a glass of water, you have to ask for it. You have to ask for the glass. You can't eat whenever you want unless your family puts a fridge in your room with food access for you and brings you that. Hey, Uber, great thing now, but guess what? Nursing homes got all my money and only get $20 cash a month. Okay. You can have something called locus of control, a diminished locus of control, in which the individual loses the ability to control such basic matters of when they go to bed, when they bathe, what their meal choices are. I don't want to eat that rice and gravy today. I want a cheeseburger. Too bad for you. You're getting rice and gravy. And you're in South Louisiana, you're getting shrimp and fish on Friday. Because it's a culturally religious based norm. Nobody eats meat on Friday. You eat fish and shrimp, right? Or crawfish, right? They may become even more withdrawn. They may fail to comply with medical treatment as a form of rebellion. I hate my life. I hate where it is. I'm not doing anything you tell me. And so they become fatalistic and depressed. And so the doctor gives them a mental health diagnosis when mama is just mad and a depression. So now we're going to give you a little Xanax, mama. Now we're going to give you a little this, a little that, right? They may also experience excess disability. Well, what's the use? Or more disability than necessary because the environment in which they live is either too challenging. I gotta walk all the way down the hall to get to the cafeteria, or there's nothing else to do but sit and watch TV all day, right? Visit a nursing home and see what it actually happens. All right. Now we're going to go into page 21. Okay. So we look at the aging of the body, and some people die early. Some people die in their 70s. Some people die in their 50s. Any death before 50s is usually due to some type of an accident or a cancer diagnosis. But after or a medical diagnosis, diabetes, liver failure, kidney failure, that sort of thing. But as we age on, our body begins to age down. Heart, liver, kidneys, brain, lungs begin to age. In particular, the heart is the one that begins to cause the body the most trouble. So, but some people have something called a reserve capacity. And on the bottom of page 21, testable term, the ability of the body to recover from assaults and withstand peak load demands as during physical exertion. So grandma's out there, she's walking the mall, or grandpa's out there, he is doing the treadmill 5 miles a day at the gym. So there's a reserve capacity that comes up. and you have the strength. Some people have it, some people don't. I can't describe it. Scientists can't put the pinpoint of who's going to get that extra boost of energy. A key finding from studies of biological aging, this is the last sentence, the last paragraph on page 21, is that chronological age alone is not a good predictor of functional capacity, your biological age. All right. And so you can't say, oh, they're 86, they're creeping along with the walker. No, there are people that are 86 that are still working. I have an aunt, 86. She has a garden. She runs a bed and breakfast. She speaks 5 languages, talks to people all over the world, runs 4 other sub bed and breakfasts under her. She is a tourist guide in the area. And so her functional age is probably 49. Really. Her functional age is probably 49. And she got this great new pair of shoes. And I mean, she is booking it now. She said, look out, get out my way. Right. And so, what is your functional age? Can you touch your toes? Can you get down on the floor and get up again without holding on to something? Can you walk up and down stairs without being winded or your knees or your ankles killing you? Your biological age is one thing, your functional age is another. So on page 22, we see that now we look at different species out there. Everything has its lifespan. A caterpillar, what turns into a butterfly, a lifespan of 6 weeks. A mosquito, 6 days, whatever. Everything has its lifespan. So do humans. For how long a member of that species can survive, that's called your lifespan. Your life expectancy is a different thing. From birth is the average number of years an individual may be expected to live. Maximum lifespans, in other words, is always higher than life expectancy. So in the 1800s, life expectancy for males was 55. Up until the 1960s, it was 65. But we've had great advances um, in cardiac areas, as well as in cancer treatment. So people are now living in good health into their 80s, late 70s, 80s. They don't show any geriatric biological aging until they are way into their late 80s, early 90s. I know 2 people in my immediate family that have lived to 102 and 105. So good genes, right? Stop eating the trash. Good genes, right? And so, what are mechanisms of aging? What's going to make the difference between lifespan and life expectancy? Wear and tear. Let's begin with that on page 23. The organic process of our bones, the cartilage, the muscles, right? The biological process of all the systems of the body, wear and tear. How much manual labor have you done? Free radicals, what we're exposed to chemical wise, as well as what we put in our mouth. So on page 24, free radicals are as we engage in metabolism, metabolism, all cells produce waste products. Those waste products are called free radicals. Do you drink enough water in the day so your body can filter out the trash that it is having to go through and excrete? I had this conversation with someone driving up here. For every glass of Coke or carbonated drink you drink, high amount of sugar, the acids, the phosphoric acid that causes Coca-Cola, high in phosphoric acid, which is battery acid, by the way, that flavor you like, you have to drink a minimum of 3 glasses of water to equal to rehydrate your body. For every cup of coffee, because of the caffeine and the diuretic aspects of coffee, you have to drink 2 glasses of water. So if your body, we are 90+% water, is dehydrated, you're not going to be able to express out these free radicals, and they hang around and they damage cells and they flip switches for cancer. All right. And so I do not drink. I stopped drinking any carbonated drinks over 3 years ago. I drink water and decaffeinated tea, right? No sugar. And among those waste products are free radicals or molecules of ionized oxygen, which have an extra electron. And these ionized oxygen models cause damage because they bond to proteins and other structures, right? They cause plaques, all kind of things in the body, in the brain, in the veins, okay? So another thing related to physical aging is glycosylation, okay? And this is sugar, glucose in the body. Along with oxygen, glucose is the basis for metabolism in all organisms. Glycosylation, last sentence, testable, is behind much of the damage created by adult onset diabetes, which kills the kidneys, right? Causes nerve damage, endings, hands tingle, feet tingles, as well as stiffened joints and blocked arteries. When I don't eat any cakes, cookies, anything high in sugar. I get it once a month, special occasion. When I eat that, I feel like I have the flu. Muscles are stiff, joints are stiff, okay? Sugar gets you. You have to be very careful. Um, we also see the immune system that's been fighting off from before we were even born, been fighting off viruses, bacteria, infections. We see the immune system is another important factor in biophysical aging. So the next testable terms, this will be ending, this lecture will be ending. Page 27 is the cognitive theory of aging. You need to know that. Page 27, cognitive theory of aging, argues that the perception of change rather than actual objects change that can cause an impact on behavior. Activities of daily living, this is what we do. You get up in the morning, you know it's morning, you know the time, you get up, put the coffee pot on, brush your teeth, brush your hair, change your clothes, put your deodorant, activity, daily living. You clean the house, put the washing on, you know how to make lunch for yourself. These are markers that we determine cognitive decline, physical ability decline. So these are ADLs, and there are specific number readings for ADLs. And as people age, those ADLs, they stop wanting to bathe. I don't need to bathe today. I didn't do nothing but sit in the chair all day. Bathe anyway, right? And so activities of daily living. And that's the end of this chapter. I hope you've enjoyed the review. These introductory important words will be on the exam along with chapter 1 and chapter 2's concepts. So have a good day. Drink your water. Lay off the cokes. Imagine that Starbucks coffee with those double shots. Oh my God, what I used to drink. Bye-bye.